welcome into a For What It's Worth episode 28. It is your host, Calvin Silvers, and we have a jam-packed episode. That's right, we are going over the set first round series matchups in both the East and West in this year's NBA playoffs. So not talking the play-ins yet, just the set matchup. So I'm talking Clippers, Nuggets, Lakers, Timberwolves, along those lines, and then we'll dive into the other series once we figure out those teams. So before we even dive into any of that, if you're listening on YouTube, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Obviously means a lot, and go ahead and favorite and leave a comment. Let me know who you think is going to win this year's NBA championship. Same on Spotify. If you're listening and or watching on there, go ahead and rate us 5 stars, give us a favorite, and you can also leave a comment on the video there. If you want clips of the podcast, we are on X and we are on Instagram at FWIW Sports Pod. We're also on TikTok at FWIW Sports. As mentioned, going to break down my thoughts and opinions on both the East and West matchups in the series that are set. And I want to start with the Clippers and the Nuggets, because this is going to be a fun one. And I made a video probably, a month or two by now, where I gave my 5 legitimate teams that I think can win an NBA title this season. Now, that was, of course, before some injuries happened and just some other movements happened. But I still believe that I had the correct 5. And one of those 5 that I had or said had a legitimate shot at winning an NBA championship was the Denver Nuggets. Now, this was before I knew any, matchups, seedings, pairings, before I knew they were going to fire their head coach, before any of that. But I'm still going to stick with my guns here. And I'm going to give you a few reasons why I believe the Clippers can't overcome this challenge of the Nuggets in the first round. And it starts with James Harden, because this is the time of the year where he loves to disappear. Now, he'll give you a good, game 1, maybe even a good game 2. But about game 3, game 4, where you really got to start locking in a little bit, that's when he starts to waver. His scoring efficiency, it drops in the postseason. This is no secret. There's some notable disappearances that I can bring up. We can go as far back as 2015. This is how long this has been going on. We can go back to 2015 in the Warriors in the WCF. Harden shot 2 for 11, 12 turnovers in a Game 5 loss. We can go to 2017 versus the Spurs in round 2. Game 6, he scored 10 points on 2 for 11 shooting, 7 turnovers. Rockets were blown out. We can go as more recent, even 2023 versus the Celtics in the round 2 after a 45-point game 1. He's going to give you a good game 1, a good game 2. There's no, I believe that. He's too good not to give you something. So, dropped a 45-point game 1. Then he averaged 14.5 points, 34.8% shooting over the next 6 games. The 76ers losing in 7. So this season, he's averaged 16.3 points on 40.2% shooting against Denver for a low of 11 points in the January loss. So Denver has been able to hold him and make his game not as efficient, that's what he does here come playoff time. Not a good look. Let's look at some depth and matchup too when it comes to just Harden and his effectiveness. He relies on the pick and roll chemistry or isolation scoring. That's been his entire game ever since he's gotten into the league. But with Denver's drop coverage, and it's anchored by Jokic, that limits Zubats. That limits his roll threat. That's going to force Harden to shoot over some length, and just with shooting woes that tend to follow him when it comes to playoff times, or just bad play overall, or just him not even wanting to shoot the ball sometimes, I think that's going to take a hit here. Now, of course, I have to bring this up too, is Kawhi Leonard's health concerns. I am not fully, believe that he's going to make it through this entire series or even through the entire playoffs. Now, when healthy, he's dangerous. We know this. We saw what he did even back on the Raptors. He carried that team. When he's healthy, even this season we're seeing it, he is a dangerous, dangerous player. But will he play? Since 2019, he's appeared in 29 of the 49 playoff games that he could for the Clippers. Some key absences, if we want to go over them: 2020, played all 13 games, but he was inefficient against the Nuggets. 2021, missed the final 8 games because he had that ACL tear after playing 11. So he played a few, but had to miss the final 8. 2022, he missed the entire playoffs, recovering from that ACL. 2023, played a couple games versus the Sun, then had that meniscus tear. That sidelined him. And then in 2024, he played 4 games versus the Mavericks before knee inflammation ended his run. Again, it's there. It's a trend. I don't know why I should believe that this year all of a sudden he's going to be healthy just because he's playing good at the end of the season. No, I don't trust that he's going to get through the first round. Kawhi has advanced past the first round just 4 times since 2014. This grind, he's played less than half the season. Now you want him to endure the grind of the playoffs? Now you expect him just to be able to lock in into that kind of mindset? It's a different mindset. It's going to test his durability. Guarding players like Jamal Murray, Aaron Gordon, it's going to be a lot for him. Can he stay healthy? Looking at some depth and matchups when it comes to, in terms of Kawhi, his minutes are limited. He's averaged about 29.6 post return. So the Clippers are going to lean on, Norman Powell. They're going to lean on Harden, which we don't even know if that's a good idea with Harden and what he tends to do come playoffs. But neither of those guys are obviously going to match what Kawhi can do defensively. And then, as mentioned, Zubac, his role guarding Jokic, that leaves Kawhi to handle the Murray, Gordon, which I said is going to be a test to his durability. It's a taxing assignment. It's a lot for a player coming off of not only limited games, but also, limited minutes. And then two, we just got to think Jokic is the best player right now. The team with the best player in the league, I would assume, can get out of the first round. Jokic having a historic season, NBA's top player, MVP caliber, shooting 57.6% field goal, 41% from 3. It's unbelievable. This guy is unbelievable, and he doesn't even look like a basketball player. It's unbelievable the kind of numbers that he can put up, and I know some people say his game's boring, but it's magical what this guy can do. He's coming off being the 3rd player ever to average a triple-double for a full season. Got to shout out Russell Westbrook. I know my good friend and fellow podcast host here on For What It's Worth, Tyrone, would want me to mention that. So, but Jokic just having an unbelievable season right now, and he's going to exploit the Clippers' lack of size. Zubac is their only true center. The Clippers' top 5 defense relies on him clogging the paint, but with Jokic and what I mentioned, 41% from 3, Zubac is going to have to step out. That's going to open driving lanes. Denver's offensive rebounding rate, 4th in the NBA. That makes sure that Jokic is going to get those extra or second chance points, and when he does, he's likely going to finish with that 57% shooting. I just like what Denver can do with Jokic and the size there. And two, the Nuggets are just going to have that home court advantage. They went 33-8 at home. Jokic's ability to control games single-handedly, I think that just outweighs the Clippers' depth if Harden struggles or, Kawhi's injured. So, but I will admit that Denver's depth doesn't, it worries me against the Clippers. But in the regular season series, Denver's starters outscored the Clippers, right? But their bench was outscored. So your starters are doing the job, but what about your bench? What about your depth, especially in the playoffs when you might have to rely on some of those guys, or you might need a guy to step up in the moment? Your star might be hurt. Your star might go down. Your star might have an off night. So, yes, I trust the starters more for Denver, but can your bench get it done? Now, Jamal Murray is going to be huge too. He's a playoff riser. What is he going to be able to do? He averaged 20.5 points on 46.2% shooting versus the Clippers this season, including 20 and 21 points in Denver's win. So he was the driving force in those regular season games. In the 2020 comeback, he exploded. 26.5 points per game, 50% shooting. His ability to attack mismatches and his pull-up threes, that just complements Jokic's playmaking. Chef's kiss right there. I'm going Nuggets in 6 or 7. Let's go on to the other game here. Minnesota Timberwolves and the Los Angeles Lakers. Lakers, another team that I said had a legitimate, one of my top 5 teams to have a legitimate shot at an NBA championship this season. And this was after they traded for Luka. So I already knew that Luka was coming to the Lakers at this point. But I got Lakers winning this one, and probably in 6 or 7 as well. And I like the scoring trio that the Lakers have. You got Luka now, you got Austin Reeves, and yeah, you got a 40-year-old LeBron James. Damn right, you have a 40-year-old LeBron James who's getting it done at a high level. Now, the Lakers' offense is powered by those 3 elite shot creators, where Minnesota, what do they rely on? They just rely really on Anthony Edwards. We'll get to that more here in a second. But those 3 that I mentioned, Luka, Austin, and LeBron, they're capable of combining for 80-plus points. Those 3 can really just dominate a game. Here's how they stacked up the season. Luka, 28.2 points per game, 45% field goal, 37.9% from 3. Since joining the Lakers in about the midseason, he's averaged 30 points per game over his last 10 games, and he's shooting 40% from 3. And then just after that game in Dallas, I really feel like he's flipped a page. I feel like he's really turned, the page and is ready for the playoffs. That's all behind him. I think it's just going to be a different Luka right now. LeBron James averages 24.4 points per game. He's shooting above 50%, and he's shooting 37% from 3. Notice how everyone is shooting well from 3. That's what the Lakers like to do now, especially after getting Luka. And I think that's going to carry them a long ways here in the playoffs. And they have Austin Reeves, who is averaging 20 points per game, 46% from field goal, and 37 from the field, and 37.7% 3-point percentage. He's averaging 23.6 points per game over his last 10 games on 45.6% 3-point shooting. Austin Reeves, he's unbelievable right now. Not only those stats I just read, but over his last 15 games, he's over his last 15 games, he's averaged 23.8 points per game with 10 games of 30-plus points scoring. He's also had a 45-point explosion in there. His efficiency and isolations, his efficiency and, off screens, it just makes him that pivotal third star that the Lakers need to make a deep playoff run, and I love it. He's stepping up in that moment right now. He's taking ownership of the moment. And like I said, I trust him. I trust Austin Reeves with the ball in his hands at this moment. Now, depth and matchup wise, Luka, he faces Jaden McDaniels. McDaniels is an elite defender, don't get me wrong, but I think just Luka's size and Luka's playmaking and just how he plays one-on-one, I think that favors Luka more. I think LeBron, he exploits smaller wings that the Timberwolves are going to have. Alexander Walker is one. Reeves, his quickness is going to play trouble to some of the older players, especially Mike Conley. So that's something to worry about as well. Minnesota's perimeter defense, it's stout. It's a good perimeter defense. By Lakers' ability to attack from multiple angles and score from 3, Reeves coming off the screens, they could score in multiple ways, multiple angles. That's going to force rotations. That's going to open threes, which they've been hitting a lot lately. So I just really think that this offense is going to be, while again, Minnesota's defense is stout, especially the perimeter defense, I think there's just going to be too many moving parts that the Lakers are going to be exposing. JJ Redick's brilliant mind when it comes to basketball is going to be working in overdrive for this playoff. So I'm just really liking the Lakers in that regard. So I mentioned this earlier, and I'm going to now get back to it, is Minnesota's reliance on Anthony Edwards. It's too much. I just gave you 3 people that can go off for the Lakers, or can all 3 go off at once? That's dangerous. When you look at the Timberwolves, it's Anthony Edwards, and then who else are you going to expect to step up? I hope you didn't say Julius Randle, because it's not going to be Julius Randle. I'll tell you that right now. He will not become your efficient 20-plus point scorer in the playoffs that you need. In fact, he's probably going to do the exact opposite of what you need him to do. He's kind of like a James Harden when it comes to the playoffs. In 15 career playoff games, 17 points average, 9 rebounds average, 3.7 assists, 34.4% shooting, 28.3% three-point, 58 total turnovers. That's 4 a game. That is 4 turnovers a game. And against the Lakers, he already had problems with Hachimura's physicality. And now it's the playoffs, and he loves to turn the ball over. It's not going to be Julius Randle. Luka, his recent, form, what he's looked like has been impressive. His history versus Minnesota, that organization, has been impressive. In fact, we can just go back to the 2024 Western Conference versus Minnesota. That series, he dominated. 32.9 points per game. Let's go ahead and just bump it up to 33, why don't we? 9.6 rebounds, 8.2 assists, 47% shooting, 43% shooting from 3, 4.6 threes per game. Can go ahead and round that up to 5. That's fair to me. Shredded Gobert and, pick and rolls, hit dagger threes over McDaniels. Dallas looked good. Luka looked good. I think he'll continue that. Lakers' death. I just went over their 3 primary scorers. Hachimura. You have Finney-Smith, Gabe Vincent, Jared Vanderbilt, Jackson Hayes. I can go over all their stats. I feel like I don't really need to. Hachimura, Vincent, they combined for 42.3% three-point percentage in fourth quarters, so they can come alive in the fourth and be dangerous. In the regular season series, the Lakers reserves outscored Minnesota's in 2 wins. So there's that as well. So Reeves versus Conley or Alexander Walker in a matchup, that's going to go in Reeves' favor. You have all those 3 scorers. You have the death. You have Reeves' off-ball cuts. This team is just really impressive, and more impressive than I think people are giving them credit for. And I know their size hurts, but I think in this one, they'll be just fine. In fact, let me go ahead and just talk about that a little more, because JJ Redick does emphasize, pace, spacing, often uses those smaller lineups. And the Lakers net rating with Luka, James, Reeves, Hachimura, Finney-Smith, it's plus 6.8. So they're thriving on that switchability. They're thriving on that shooting. Gobert, he struggles against the Lakers. He struggles with Redick going small. 42% field goal percentage allowed in space when Redick went small against Rudy Gobert. Those small lineups are going to pull him from the rim. And that's when you can just have Luka. That's when you can just have Reeves just attack Gobert. You can have him force switches, and then that's going to lead to open threes. So neutralize Gobert's rim protection. That's going to expose his mobility issues. I really wanted to talk about that West, because I've been watching the West a little bit more than I've been watching the East. I'm not going to lie to you guys. And so this East section's going to be a little shorter, but it's going to save you guys some time. And I'm sure you guys are appreciative of that. But let's talk Pistons and Knicks. I went back and forth on this one, but not as much as I went back and forth on the other one. We'll get to that in a second here with the Pacers and the Bucks. But Pistons, Knicks, I went back and forth on, but I'm going to end up going with the Knicks. I like Jalen Brunson more in this situation. In the playoffs, he's a proven killer. Now, I don't think he's a, player that's going to lead you to an NBA championship, but I think he does need his respect when it comes to talking playoffs and what he can do in the playoffs. Last year, averaged 32.4 points per game on 47.8% shooting. That was against Philly. 35.5% points per game versus Indiana, with 7 of those games having 40 plus points across those 2 rounds. So he can step up and he can get you a lot of points very quickly. He faces, likely defensively, he's going to face Thompson or Jaden Ivey. Both are athletic, but both are also foul prone. So I think that's going to help Brunson in this situation. Thompson's averaging about just over 3 fouls per game. Ivy is about to average 3 fouls per game. So something to watch there too, especially if those guys get in foul trouble. And then that is just going to allow Brunson to go off even more. Cunningham playing really well, but it's their first go around. Just no experiences, especially for Cunningham. His turnover rate, it spikes in pressure situations. He's already averaging 3.4 a game. He's averaging 4 turnovers against the Knicks. And in playoff times, you can't turn the ball over. It's one of those times where you got to hit free throws. You got to get to the line and hit your free throws. And you cannot turn the ball over. And so I get it. The Knicks struggled against Detroit this season, regular season. I think they're just going to figure it out here come playoff time. But when they did beat the Pistons in the regular season, they held Detroit to 41% shooting, and they forced 16 turnovers. So that's going to be a big part of the game, obviously limiting Cunningham and just the shooting ability that Detroit can showcase and also get them into positions where they're going to turn the ball over. And the experience of the Knicks is ultimately what put me over in that regard too. Knicks, they're playoff tested. They've reached the Eastern Conference semifinals. Brunson, he's played in 54 playoff games. Hart's 37. There's someone else with 40. So they have the playoff experience. 135 combined games with some of their players, the big 3 there. And then when you compare that to Detroit's core, they have 0. So you're going to a core that has 135 combined postseason appearances to a core that has 0. Detroit also went 20-21 on the road, struggling versus top 8 teams on the road, going 12-16. So I like the Knicks in that one. And then this Bucks Pacers, y'all, I really don't know. I might have to get back. I'm not going to lie to y'all. I might have to get back to y'all in another video on who I see coming out of this one. But for now, at this very moment, give me the Bucks, and I can go through the stats. But when I was going through the stats, trying to go through my predictions of what I've seen and what I can remember from the series this year, it still left me at a stall. So the one thing I will say right now about this is I think Giannis gets his revenge from last year. So give me the Bucks for now. But if I make another episode, that can easily change. All right, that is episode 28 for what it's worth. This was a lot of fun. Like I said, dissecting and going over and analyzing and breaking down the set first round matches of this year's NBA playoffs. I hope to get another video made where I can go over once we get all the play-in teams done, and then I can go over those series. I'm really thinking Golden State can do some damage, so I'm hoping that they can come out of the play-in. And then I'd like to see the Mavs come out of the West. The East, I'm not going to lie, doesn't intrigue me nearly as much, at least on the play-in side. But I think that Bucks Pacers game is really what's going to hold that first round there for the East. As I mentioned, if you're listening on YouTube, go ahead, subscribe, like, comment, do whatever you can. If you're on Spotify, rate us 5 stars, then go ahead and favorite and send the link on over to your friends. If you want extra clips or just want recaps or just want to keep up to date with what we're doing, you can follow us on X and on Instagram at FWIW Sports Pod. We're also on TikTok at FWIW Sports. Once again, you were watching a For What It's Worth episode 28. I am your host, Calvin Silvers. And until next time, have a good one.